Good morning.
Good morning.
I am Marsha Hudson. Thank you, Norman. So, according to evolution, any species may face an existential crisis if its environment becomes untenable. Our species is proud of two traits: our intelligence and our capacity for loving. They have enabled us to adapt to many different environments and therefore to populate most of our planet and thrive. However, male aggressiveness, once adapted for competing with animal predators, has become our most dangerous trait.
Amen.
Our pursuit of increasing wealth and power over most of the world's territory has exploited and threatened the existence of many other species of both animals and plants, as well as the mineral resources in the earth and oceans. Thus, we have trashed much of our natural environment and polluted the soils, oceans, waters, and skies. Our planet has responded to 3 centuries of environmental degradation with catastrophic extremes of weather, wildfires, sea level rise, and species extinction. The balance of nature has been severely compromised and tilted towards biosphere destruction, in which our overpopulation and consumption habits play a central role. Therefore, we must fundamentally change our habits and desires in order to rescue our biosphere for ourselves.
I'm going to speak primarily to men. Our greatest threat to planetary sustainability comes from a predatory class of men who seek wealth and power at the expense of all other species, as well as most women, children, and seniors. These predators are a small subset of offspring of patriarchal families. Let's face it, men, we have a lot of changing to do to make society sustainable. And it will take both persistence and courage from us to do it. But it's not outward courage, it's inward courage. So let's begin with the dawn of a baby's consciousness. Face to face gazing at 14 and 18 inches with its caregiver, while sharing emotionally harmonious expression, provides an infant with its first mirror image for self-awareness. That is, before I think, therefore I am, because I see and am seen with love, so I'm alive. This experience of interest and attunement, expanding into excitement, ignites the infant's energy towards intimate relations and gradually towards the entire living world around us. But if interest, curiosity, and excitement are the fuel that powers us through life in the world, we still need brakes to keep us slow, to slow our travel down, and to stop, or even change direction towards something else. That braking emotion is actually called shame. But since emotions are normally unconscious until we become conscious, most of us are unaware of most moments of shame. Instead, what we notice is the need to withdraw and either feel helpless and bad or blame somebody else. Shame seeds are called negative because we don't want to face them. We're too uncomfortable. But if we're curious too about those seeds, that pleasing feeling balances out the discomfort so we can explore our experience on a level playing field. Then our urge to either blame somebody else or ourselves can relax. For the fault is neither just ours nor just the other person's. Actually, there's a fault zone between us in our relationship. Some of the greatest words that Leonard Cohen ever wrote address this fault zone. In Anthem, he says, there's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. One sort of this inner light is the dawning of consciousness of shame. Because shame moments are symbols of danger to a valued relationship. In 1975, psychologists started studying the shame experience. They called it the still face experience. It happens when the caregiver attunement is interrupted as early as 3 weeks of age. And what he did was after excited communication of faces with their baby, the caregiver would turn their head away and then turn back with a total stone face. All the infants responded with dismay, confusion, and then escalating separation stress. Further research has shown that even in adult intimate relationships, two people are constantly breaking connections and reconnecting. At best, close partnerships are in harmonious communion 30% of the time and separate and immersed in their own consciousness for the other 70%. Thus, all human relations are an endless stream of goodbyes and hellos, or of connections with ourselves, or with both ourselves and another. Yet being immersed in ourselves makes it harder to tune into another person, and being conscious of both another and ourselves makes it harder to tune into ourselves. So the most difficult task in relationships is to develop the art of repairing them, since they're normally interrupted and often damaged by misunderstanding, neglect, or disputes. People can practice relationship repair by taking some time each week to talk about what's satisfying and what's uncomfortable for them. Since women do more talking about relationships, they are more prepared for relationship repair than men. So for us men to begin repairing relations, we need to cultivate solitary reflection on uncomfortable moments of dismay, confusion, or discord that we've experienced. It's like thinking out loud to yourself. So imagine now that you have discovered a quick repair moment in your relationship. How do you begin repair? Well, if you're standing on the edge of speaking without any words for a script, you may feel echoes of the times you stifled this moment in childhood, and perhaps even felt too small for the task. Like maybe you'd have to crawl back and beg for forgiveness. But if you trust the person you're with to help you out, you might begin by saying, I'm uncomfortable. Or if you can view yourself through the positive lens of curiosity, then you can speak more easily. You can't be sure of success in advance when you repair, but you can establish guidelines for regular encounters that include acceptance and commitment. Acceptance means each person's words and feelings are human, and therefore accepted. And commitment means everyone is seeking comfortable relations and respect. But if we commit to acceptance and respect for each other, we can expect to steadily improve our relationships and also develop our emotional fluency in the process. Turn it back to Marsha.
So I'm going to speak primarily to the women. So the challenge for women is not so much in the repair of relationships, but in taking more power and responsibility in the public arena. This requires of us that we come to terms with the emotion of anger. While men are more comfortable with contempt and anger than women and typically avoid fear, sorrow, and shame, women are more comfortable than men with distress, sorrow, joy, and fear, and typically avoid contempt and anger, especially anger. Every society discourages explicit expressions of anger, probably because of anger's association with violence, although anger and aggression are not necessarily related. That is, an angry response need not be an aggressive response. The association with violence may be partly why women are not expected to show their anger, since this contradicts society's version of womanhood. But we women have heard that our anger is frightening, or unattractive, or unjustified, or just too emotional. As a result, we have learned also to repress our anger, sometimes to the point of making it disappear. Some time ago, I knew a woman who claimed to have never felt anger, ever. She came from a family of Lutheran ministers, and so deeply believed that expressing anger was wrong, that she repressed even her awareness of anger. The emotion was totally outside of her conscious experience. Now, this is extreme, and I wonder how many of us have had difficulty at times embracing and owning our anger. Perhaps because we are afraid or uncomfortable with the power the anger allows us to feel. Perhaps because we are afraid of physical reprisal. Perhaps because we were taught, like my friend, that it is wrong. I suggest the problem is lack of awareness of our anger, and therefore a lack of familiarity and comfort with the power of that emotion. I would suggest that we women need to take up the work of learning to understand and manage all of our emotions, and most especially anger, so that they can serve us and not blindly drive us. I'd like us to take a minute, actually a few seconds of a minute, to pause and reflect on when you last experienced anger. Pull that out of your memory. Be sure to pay attention to your experience in the public arena as well as in your relationships. I'll give you a few seconds to go inside yourself. So chances are your recalled anger was due to one of two causes. One is familiar, the mother bear anger, which is when a vulnerable person, often a child, is under threat and needs your protection. Then there is anger caused by something unfair that has happened either to you or someone around you. This is the anger from injustice. This covers a lot of ground and can occur in both the private and the public arena. Privately, in the realm of relationship, it can occur when a promise is broken, a boundary is breached, a lie is told, or some kind of betrayal. In the public arena, the Supreme Court's decision recently to eliminate Roe v. Wade has outraged many, as has the continued extraction of oil, the intentional distortion of news events, the hoarding of billions of dollars, the unequal treatment of people of color, and the list goes on and on. What is worth noticing about all these injustices is that our anger gives us energy and urges us to action. We move to repair the damage done to our relationships, and we are moved to activism in the cause of equal rights and protecting the planet from degradation and destruction. Well, this is the wonderful quality of anger. It brings injustice to our attention and brings with that a powerful energy to do something about it. Anger is the harbinger and creator of change. It invites us to respond to the cries of injustice, change what is wrong, and put in place what is right. Sometimes this will require that we women take up positions of leadership in our communities and in legislatures, which in turn require that we exercise assertiveness. Being assertive, for some of us, will take courage. But it will benefit all if there are more women with the power to affect policy. And because we are women, chances are we would be more collaborative in the way we lead and less dependent on the male hierarchical model of leadership. This will ultimately contribute to the replacement of patriarchy. This work is the cultivation of emotional maturity. It is the belief of many that when we, men and women both, can use all of our emotions, then we will not be driven to compensate with excessive need for wealth or greed, resulting in the destruction of plants, animals, earth, sky. And indeed, this radical change in our emotional maturity can be what we need for a true shift in consciousness and the adoption of a more egalitarian government and society.
I want to say just a few words in conclusion. We've explored the two emotional themes of banning awareness of shame as a key to engaging in relationship repair, and thus expanding our breadth of emotional influence for women, understanding the power of anger to strengthen their voice in public arenas in order to share equal leadership. I would just add to that that expanding this inner repertoire of both women and men would establish, I hope, a new gold standard of what human nature can become in order for our species to sustain our bias, live in health and harmony with nature by being fully aware of what's mostly unconscious inside of ourselves. This is carrying out the work that Freud and Jung began and bringing it out into the public sphere worldwide. Not an easy job, which is why I gave the Goethe quote that maybe it's too big for us, but maybe we get partway there and get something we really would be happy with. Careful stewardship of the planet is already technically possible if we could just confine the sociopathic predators who do their best to block it. That's pretty obvious. And we can lower our birth rates by promoting women into positions of power and responsibility for public life. You don't need a lot of children if you can deal with your children all over the planet. And all humanity is your children. If we increase conscious cultivation of our emotions, we can restore our ability to live sustainably on our planet. Thank you.